Oh, mommy Feixiao, please stop me. Hello, internet! With a 2.5 special program, we're greeted with the first ever multi-banner rerun event. Basically, in this event, you get to pull for, say, Feixiao, but you can also choose to pull 3 other banners while sharing the same pity count. This time, Hoyo decided to add Kafka, Blackswan, and Robin as the 3 rerun banners to run along with Feixiao. This is a blessing for the whales, but for poor people like us, well, this is a dang investment, dude. And that's why in today's video, I'll be breaking down which you should be going for from the rerun banners. I'll be making another video to cover Link Shot later on. I think that deserves a whole another topic. Firstly, let's address the elephant in the room. Do you even pull Feixiao and ignore the reruns? My answer is it solely depends on your account, and there's not a one-fit-all answer, unfortunately. Strictly meta talk though, I'd still prioritize supports, then damage dealers. However though, it is still very cruel that Hoyo basically put the best support for follow attacks with the 2 main engines for a dot team along with new Fox Mummy, so yeah dude, good luck man. Now that you know you're screwed anyway, let's dive into it. We'll start by slightly touching on Feixiao. A detailed breakdown will be in a coming video. Feixiao is simply a strong damage dealer. She relies on your ally to attack multiple times, and when you do that, Feixiao gets her talent stack to be increased. Upon reaching 6 stacks, she gets her ultimate. Therefore, by having your ally attack more, she gets more stacks, therefore more ultimates, so you deal more damage. Simple, right? And guess what team is best for multiple attacks? Yep, it is the follow-up attack team. That means you want to pair Feixiao with Robin in a follow-up attack team as the ideal setup. And wouldn't you know it, Robin just so happens to be in a rerun banner as well. So if you don't have her yet and you want Feixiao, you genuinely ideally have to get both, which is easier said than done. And that is the dilemma. To obtain Feixiao and use her effectively, you would prefer to have a Robin in your account, but then if you go for Robin because you don't own her yet, how do you get Feixiao? Now for people who did skip the past 2 banners in Yunli and Xiaoqiu, congratulations, maybe you have a shot at getting just both of them. But if you ran out of resources or just don't have enough summons though, then you might have to make the hard decision of just choosing either Feixiao or getting Robin. And well, Kafka and Blackswan, yeah, that's just how dumb this is, dude. But with that said though, I'm just gonna go to the conclusion. If you own a Robin in your account, I definitely recommend going for Feixiao if you're lacking a good damage dealer. The problem is you wouldn't be lacking a good damage dealer in a Robin team since everyone should have a free doctor ratio that already fits that team so well. So in my opinion, the best advice, pull for Feixiao only if you love her, which I'm sure most of us do. In terms of just purely meta talk, we won't know until our numbers come out, but if currently you're doing okay with just using Ratio and Robin in the IPC follow-up team, there's simply no reason for you to go ahead and get another DPS unless you like them. Now the exception is if Feixiao turns out to be just straight up broken, then yes, I would still suggest going for Feixiao, and even then you would be benching your Doctor Ratio. So from a resource standpoint, it is not too wise to go for her unless you love her, which, well, I am not gonna lie, I am a sucker for Foxian, so I'll be getting her. The problem truly arises if you don't have Robin though. Now if you don't have her, my recommendation is now, well, pull for Robin. For the same reason as I mentioned before, Feixiao's potential will really be pulled up if you have a Robin, so if you just don't have a Robin and get Feixiao instead, it's not like you can't use Feixiao, it's just a bit less ideal. But let's just focus on Robin for now. She is one of the rarest AoE buffers and one of the strongest one at that in the game. She has been around as a top tier support since her release, and she simply can't be replaced in certain teams like the follow-up attack setup. It is unfortunately much better to just have a good support than to have a good DPS without a good support, so Robin is simply the wiser choice in terms of just meta talk. Not to mention you have a free Ratio at your disposal, which makes for a perfect time to get Robin to pair with Dr. Ratio. Robin makes every game mode easier when paired with follow-up attacks, which you have Ratio for MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow, and Herda for pure fiction. It checks out most of the content in the game. Even without follow-up attacks, she can still be used solely for her damage amplification or action advance. And not only that, she applies that to her whole team, which is something that doesn't come by so common. Literally anyone can somewhat benefit from Robin, be it her attack buffs, damage boost, or just her own extra damage from her ultimate, which does make a good reason for you to prioritize getting her if you're in the middle of progressing your account. The real headache begins when you consider if you want to pull for Feixiao, then you simply have to get Robin to unleash her best potential. I hate to tell you to just get both, but yeah, it's just so good to get both, man. However, it is not to say you must have Robin to use Feixiao at all, as she is quite versatile anyway. As long as your team attacks the enemy at all, she will gain stacks. That means she will be able to use her ultimate. However, that simply implies that Feixiao is a higher potential with the amount of times follow-up attack teams can attack your enemy. And consider this, say you chose to prioritize Robin and you only got her instead of Feixiao, you can still just use her with a good old Dr. ratio and skyrocket your damage output instantly. Hence, it is, in my opinion, the more resource efficient way to try and get Robin first. If you get some extra, try for Feixiao if you love her. Worst case scenario, well, you got a Dr. ratio to pair with her. Therefore, we have my top choice for this event, which would be prioritizing Robin. And before we continue though, these are all just my opinion. Please hold it with a grain of salt and, well, don't come from my bloodline. And with that marks the end of my thought process with Robin versus Feixiao, but then we need to move up next where we talk about Kafka and Black Swan. Should you even bother with both of these characters over the new Feixiao and the dead and revived singer? Now, unlike just choosing the best supports, Kafka is a DPS, but is also the only DPS that can efficiently facilitate dot teams. Literally no other DPS in the game activates dots as often as Kafka, which makes her one of her kind. In the case of Black Swan, however, she is one of the rarest defense shredding dot DPS. Again, one of her kind. There are replaceable characters for Black Swan like say Jiaoqiu, but in a dot setup, Black Swan's damage is simply more potent. Which is why the best way to look at this is by looking at your account and figure out if you prefer a follow-up attack team or a dot team. To compare the two, follow-up attack teams are certainly more explosive, while dot teams deal more consistent damage, where enemies taking their turns will also get blasted by dots. However, there is one thing that sets these two types of teams apart, which is again, Robin. Let me explain. Robin is already the best and most suitable follow-up attack buffer in the game. However, dot teams does not quite have a dedicated buffer yet that perfectly helps them. There are a ton of dot characters in the game that could support a dot team, but all of them includes hurling debuffs at the enemies rather than allowing your team to take more turns or deal more dots, for example. There's a chance in the future that an extremely strong dot dedicated buffer will be released and Kafka with Black Swan becomes the most dominant combo in the meta. With all that said, I suggest that players that wants to experience a quick improvement to your account to go for Robin and pairing her with Dr. Ratio. That way you get your first AoE buffer that's considered one of the strongest buffers in the game, and you have one of her perfect allies already that's free. Do remember though, without Topaz, this team is still not ideal, but it does get the job done for the most part. On the other end of the spectrum, if you're a player that is willing to invest in the future, I suggest going for Kafka first, then Black Swan. Do note, however, you should only care about the future if you are not already suffering currently. Meaning to say, if you already have a strong foundation for your account and you can already beat most of the content without breaking too much of sweat, then consider going for these dot teams. The reason here is that Kafka is irreplaceable in a dot team. She's the only character in the game that can straight up activate every dot element on the enemies. If you run a dot team, it is simply too costly to not have a Kafka on it. In the case of Black Swan, you can replace her with a Jiaoqiu that does have dot and damage increase elements, or if you go down another level, you get Grey Knifen as well. But no one can really touch Kafka for what she can do, which is why I would prioritize Kafka if your decision is to invest on the dot team. So in conclusion, first decide if you prefer an instant upgrade and progress your account. If yes, do obtain Robin. Try for Feixiao only if you love her. Or in a couple of days when the creator experience server releases Feixiao's numbers, you can decide again whether or not she's worth it. Otherwise, you should think about if you already have a solid foundation in your account to beat any content. If yes, I personally suggest investing in the dot team, since it is worth hoping for Hoyo to release a dot buffer at some point that will really make that team sing. But do note that nobody knows what may happen, so like Hoyo may just not release someone like that for months on end. And for players that doesn't have a strong foundation yet and has no clue what to do, my straight suggestion is to still go for Robin, because you should have a free Dr. ratio at your disposal to make for a really strong combo that's going to progress your account. Not to mention, pair her with a free Herda and you'll get yourself a really strong pure fiction setup too. A very versatile character that's going to help you progress your account quickly. With all that said, in the end, I like to end this discussion with still saying, pull for whoever you like. That way you cannot lose. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will be all for today's video. I'll be making another analysis video soon for Feixiao and Lingsha, which, god, that's another thing to worry about on top of this reruns, man. Jesus. I wish you the best of luck, because I sure need them. And I pray for a victorious in the 50-50s. That'll be all. Take care.